A racist billionaire insults a black judge. The reason? In his eyes, a black judge doesn't deserve his respect. What he doesn't know is that he's about to face a lesson that neither his power nor his wealth can avoid. In a courtroom brimming with tension, where justice confronts power and prejudice lurks in the shadows, something occurred that left everyone speechless. This story is neither an exaggeration nor a fantasy. It's a real account of how a resolute and unshaken judge demonstrated the true meaning of dignity and the power of justice. To grasp the magnitude of this moment, we must first go back and meet the key players in this remarkable case. The man in question, Samuel Grayson, was notorious in business circles for his immense wealth and commanding presence. He had built an empire in real estate and entertainment, though not without controversy. Grayson was infamous not only for his investments, but also for his incendiary remarks, his disdainful treatment of employees and rivals, and though he never openly admitted it, his intolerance toward those who didn't share his skin color or social status. He was the kind of man whose mere presence silenced a room, not out of respect but fear. On the other side stood Judge Valerie Jacobs, a woman who had shattered barriers throughout her career. Known for her patience, composure, and devotion to the law, Valerie had reached the bench through decades of hard work, from her humble beginnings in a small southern neighborhood to her years as a civil rights attorney. Her intelligence and perseverance made her a symbol of integrity. Yet despite her accomplishments, she still faced prejudice from those who couldn't accept a black woman in such a position of power. It all began with a massive fraud case that shook the nation. Samuel Grayson was accused of manipulating government contracts and evading taxes, allegedly reaping hundreds of millions in illegal profits. As often happens with the rich and powerful, the trial was marred by delays, legal maneuvers, and sensational headlines. Grayson, confident that his money and influence placed him above the law, didn't even bother to hide his contempt for the judicial system. When it was announced that Valerie Jacobs would preside over the case, Grayson's racist and condescending remarks soon followed. While he didn't make them in front of the cameras, rumors circulated that he had laughed at a private dinner, saying, "What could that woman possibly teach me? I'd bet she won't last a week on this case. I'll tear her apart." From the first day of the trial, it was clear that Samuel Grayson wasn't taking the proceedings seriously. He arrived late, strutting with an air of superiority, flanked by a team of lawyers more interested in flaunting their expensive suits than defending their client. Grayson didn't even glance at Valerie Jacobs as he entered the courtroom. Instead, he sat down arrogantly, checked his phone, and whispered something to one of his attorneys, eliciting laughter from his team. When the judge began speaking, calling for order and explaining the trial's rules, Grayson displayed his first act of defiance. He whispered loudly, shuffled papers as if he were in a dull meeting, and even leaned back in his chair with an audible sigh of boredom. It wasn't long before he directly interrupted the judge. "With all due respect, miss, can we cut to the chase? We all know how this works. Why waste time on formalities?" An uncomfortable silence filled the room. Grayson's lawyers lowered their heads, visibly tense. Valerie Jacobs observed him calmly, as though weighing every word before responding. Without raising her voice, she replied, "Mr. Grayson, first of all, it's your honor, not miss. Second, this courtroom doesn't waste time, it delivers justice. I'd appreciate it if you showed the appropriate respect for this court." The entire room held its breath. Grayson, far from intimidated, smirked mockingly. Sure, your honor. I guess that's what I'm supposed to say here, right?" From that moment, it was clear the trial wouldn't be easy. Over the following days, Grayson continued his defiant behavior, ignoring instructions, making sarcastic remarks, and openly displaying disdain for the entire process. Every time Valerie spoke, he leaned back with his arms crossed, his expression saying, "This is nothing but a show to me." But the judge never lost her composure. Her voice remained firm, her tone measured. As Grayson sank further into his arrogance, Valerie stood unwavering. Colleagues, and even some journalists covering the case, began to notice something remarkable about her approach. Then came the day when everything changed. The courtroom was packed that day. Samuel Grayson's case had captured national attention, and media cameras were poised outside to catch any snippet of news. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Witnesses began presenting evidence of Grayson's illegal maneuvers, and the billionaire's impatience grew more apparent. Instead of adopting a more serious demeanor, his defiant attitude only escalated. At a pivotal moment, Judge Valerie Jacobs was questioning a key witness, a longtime accountant of Grayson's, with clarity and precision. But Grayson, showing unprecedented disrespect, interrupted from his seat. "Oh, come on. This is a waste of time. This is a circus. Are we seriously going to pretend this is legitimate? What's next? Accusing me of breathing too much air?" A wave of astonishment rippled through the courtroom. Some exchanged incredulous glances while Grayson's lawyers squirmed uncomfortably. Valerie Jacobs said nothing immediately. She simply looked up from her bench and stared at Grayson for what felt like an eternity. "Mr. Grayson," she finally said, her voice steady and calm, "this court does not tolerate interruptions or disrespect, especially when relevant evidence is being presented. Consider this your first warning." Grayson, undeterred, let out a mocking laugh, muttering something inaudible but clearly disrespectful. Witnesses later recounted that this was the moment when Valerie Jacobs made a pivotal decision. Though no one knew it at the time, something was about to happen that would leave an indelible mark on everyone present. That afternoon, after enduring enough interruptions, disparaging comments, and contemptuous glares from Grayson, Judge Jacobs took decisive action. With a serenity that left the entire courtroom still, she announced, "Mr. Grayson, before proceeding with this case, I've decided to convene a special hearing to determine whether you fully comprehend the gravity of this judicial process. This hearing will take place tomorrow morning, and your attendance is mandatory. It will be your opportunity to personally explain your behavior and justify your attitude toward this court." Grayson frowned, perplexed. In all his countless legal battles, no one had ever dared to challenge his demeanor so directly. But confident he would have the last word, he decided to play along. The next morning, Grayson entered the courtroom with a slightly altered demeanor. The room was packed with onlookers and reporters eager to witness the special hearing. As usual, Valerie Jacobs presided with her signature calm. The judge began by asking Grayson to stand. "Mr. Grayson," she started, "you have displayed behavior that not only disrespects this court but undermines the judicial system as a whole. Today, I'm giving you the opportunity to explain, under oath, why you believe it's acceptable to act this way in a case of such magnitude." Grayson, taken aback by her firm yet respectful tone, stood. Surveying the room with his usual air of superiority, he began. "With all due respect, Your Honor," he said with unmistakable sarcasm, "I feel this case has been handled with blatant bias. I've been unfairly targeted, and honestly, I'm not sure this court is equipped to grasp the complexities of my business dealings. I'm not here to give a lesson in economics, but some things are simply beyond the understanding of certain people." The courtroom fell silent. Grayson's words were a thinly veiled insult, not only to the judge, but to the entire legal system. All eyes turned to Valerie Jacobs, who remained in absolute control. "Understood, Mr. Grayson," she said. "Now I'll respond." Judge Valerie Jacobs rose from her seat, a rare action for a judge. From her bench, she looked directly at Grayson. "Mr. Grayson, the judicial system doesn't need to understand the complexities of your business to grasp something much simpler: the law. This is not about how many companies you run, how many properties you own, or how much money you have in the bank. This is about truth, honesty, and respect for justice. And in case you haven't noticed in this courtroom, your money holds no authority." The room was silent, but Valerie wasn't finished. "Unfortunately, your behavior here has shown not just disregard for the law, but personal disrespect toward me as a judge and a human being. While I could view this as a minor infraction, it actually reveals something far more troubling. You believe yourself above us all. But let me remind you of something. Justice cannot be bought. And since you've repeatedly demonstrated your lack of seriousness in this case, this court will hold you in contempt." Valerie's decision was an unexpected blow. She ordered Samuel Grayson into custody for 24 hours, a move no journalist, lawyer, or attendee had anticipated. What truly stunned everyone was how she did it, with a dignity and resolve that left even Grayson bewildered. A lesson that changed everything. News of Grayson's contempt arrest spread quickly. Headlines highlighted not only the downfall of an arrogant billionaire, but also the courage and intellect of Judge Valerie Jacobs. Many praised her handling of the case, making her a symbol of the unwavering integrity of justice. Days later, Grayson returned to court with a completely different demeanor. Gone were his sarcastic remarks and dismissive tone. While he continued to defend himself against the legal charges, it was evident that the judge's actions had struck him where it hurt most: his ego. In the end, the trial concluded with a guilty verdict for Samuel Grayson. He was ordered to pay massive fines and serve several years in prison. But beyond the legal outcome, what lingered in everyone's memory was the bravery of a judge who, without shouting or threats, demonstrated that justice doesn't discriminate, even against the most powerful of men. And so, in a courtroom, faced with a billionaire who believed himself untouchable, Judge Valerie Jacobs proved that dignity and truth always have a place in justice.